Well, 6:02.
Let's go. Let's go.
All right, guys. We're gonna go ahead and get started. We'll have some people trickling in. But just to respect you guys' time, we'll get going. Welcome to ECNL Info Night. My name's Adam Pribble. I'm the Executive Director. If I'm a new face for you guys, that's okay. I just started in October of 2024. So you guys will see me around Winter Park, Holy Angels, and hopefully out on the fields more and more coming up here. But if you haven't got to introduce yourself yet, please come on up afterwards and introduce yourself. I'd love to get to know everybody. And if I ask your name 2 or 3 times before I can get it, just forgive me. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. We've got our directors up here, Mark Hugh on the boys' side, Danny Sterling on the girls' side. They are our boys and girls director. That's U13 on up. Okay. Phenomenal coaches. They've been working within the club for, Danny, how long you been with the club?
Since the beginning.
Since the very beginning. And we don't even know when that is. Mark, shortly behind, right?
Since before the beginning.
Awesome. Look, we're gonna go through a couple things here tonight. I'd like to have you guys out of here at the very, very latest 7:15 if we're asking a few questions at the end, okay? So we're gonna go through a lot of information. We also have this recorded online, so we'll send that out as well along with some notes. The point of tonight is just to get to know ECNL and that platform, the league, what we've done with the league and how we've been an integral part of the ECNL, not only in its infancy and growing forward to make it the best platform for youth soccer in the country. But also there's some changes in programming, right? So we're going to be doing ECNL Regional League. We'll talk a little bit about that and what that means. And then we're going to talk about MTA and how we fit into the ecosystem here in Minnesota. Okay? We'll have some time at the end for some questions as well. Look, I'm just going to say a few words. I'm going to kick it over to these guys because, as I said, they've been here from the get-go. And I'm coming in pretty new, right? Like I've been in the soccer world a long time. I've been an athletic director. I've done all these different things, but they've built Minnesota Thunder Academy to what it is today, and will continue pushing the envelope in youth soccer here in Minnesota. The biggest thing is that we talk about a pathway for players. And when we talk about a pathway and what that means, it's really about your experience. It's about the opportunities that you're going to have, the exposure you have at different levels, and what that development pathway looks for as a player. And so when we take a look at that, what you're going to see here up here is that as you're continuing to go through your journey, here as a player, we hope everyone starts here at the youngest ages, but we certainly have players matriculate to MTA throughout their career. If you looked out there in the field house today, you probably saw Thunderbolts getting started, and that's where it all starts for us. And then things grow through the various levels. So getting up to 13U and above, and that's really what we're here to talk about at ECNL and ECNL Regional League level. We'll have ECNL as our top team. Our second teams will be playing in the local leagues all through TCSL. TCSL also sponsors different higher leagues like the National Premier League and then the new ECNL Regional League. Okay, so not only that's what you're going to see up here is, and we'll have that on the website. We'll send it all out. But we also like to put into context some of the other choices that are out there in the market. So when we talk about ECNL, there's other National League platforms out there. On the boys' side, you're going to see MLS Next new tier. And you're also going to see the Girls Academy. Those are the other well-known national leagues. When these guys started here, and it wasn't that long ago, there was one league, one platform, and everyone was in the same platform, and it was a little bit easier to figure out things.
They're still playing. They're still in the playoff.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, in the
Masters.
got it. But look, you know, so when it was all in one platform with USU soccer, one national final, all these things, but there's been some different leagues that have popped up over the years, and the market has started to shift, and that's okay. So, but what we're here to do today is, again, to give you the information on why we've chosen the ECNL, why we've doubled down on the ECNL, and why we feel it's the right vehicle for development and experience and opportunity for your kids. Okay. course, then it all factors into the overall US landscape. And I wish it was really straightforward. I gotta say, I work in the industry, and there's a lot of people here that are involved in the industry, and it takes quite a bit of conversations for all of us to figure it out. So like, if you have questions, or if you're like, this doesn't really make sense, seriously, please come have conversations with us, because I'm telling you that it's a little confusing. Not only at the youth level, where I think it gets really convoluted, but certainly as you continue to go in up on the pyramid. But what we're talking about is like at US soccer, US soccer at the National League level, US men's national team, US women's national team, we know that's the highest level. There's a lot of pro leagues then within that MLS, NWSL on the women's side. And now, but you're seeing USL that just opened up another tier 1 pro league, and now they're going to do pro rel. So things are changing. What I would say is that like, we're really in our adolescence in terms of soccer in the US, right? When we're talking about, you know, so the leagues over in Europe have been around for 130, 140 years. We're still figuring some things out over here, and that's also okay. I think it's really cool because we have an opportunity here at MTA to be a vital part of what that is, not only in the present, but in the future. So what you're going to hear from these two gentlemen tonight and myself, and certainly what I hope you hear from, you know, coaches on the field, our operations and administrators here, is what we talk about at MTA every day is excellence and really high standards. We are a high performance club. Okay, so what that means is that like, it's not the club for everyone. Like, it's for players that are ambitious and want to push and want to play at the highest levels. And what that does is creates a competitive cauldron that's pretty special. Okay. You're going to see, we're going to talk about excellence in terms of your experience, because at the end of the day, regardless of it being a high performance club or not, like we're talking about human development. And so your experience matters, and that doesn't mean that you're always going to agree with everything that happens. And it certainly doesn't mean that like, it's not going to be challenging, but we are really going to value your experience. And so that means that we're going to communicate with you really well and set clear expectations. And then we'll communicate more afterwards, right? Like it is a human development piece. And so it gets messy and it's not always linear, but we're going to continue to have those conversations throughout your career here at MTA if you choose to come play here. But then we're going to talk about excellence and development. And that means what we're doing on the field and all the different things that we're doing in our programming every day to continue to push the envelope, right? Again, what you're going to hear from me, I'll say it probably 5 times during this presentation, is development is not linear. What does that mean? Like when I play at 12 years old, and one of the things like, you know, I played goalkeeper and on the field myself, I can remember at like 12, 13 years old, I could kick the ball, you know, half the length of the field. So I used that. All right. And then there was a certain point where I couldn't do that anymore. And by the way, all the kids around me, they kind of caught up to where I was at. I wasn't running by kids, and I couldn't kick the ball half the field and score on a free kick. So what I mean there is that when I get to 13 and 14 and I got benched, that was a really good learning opportunity for me. And this is what we talk about when development is not linear. That's where we really lean into what does an individual player development look like? That's why we do player evals 3 times a year. That's why we're always doing things that coaches, this is where coaches have a really hard job here, because there's pressure to win, but winning isn't the only thing. We want to win a little bit. And certainly I love winning. It's, but here's the deal, at like what ages and where does it matter? So like sometimes we're just up here talking today about some of our ECNL boys games, and we didn't win every game. And we're not going to lose our heads about it, because we're also trying to play the right way. We're trying to develop our kids. And those are questions and decisions that our coaches are making every day, of not only how to get really good results on the field, but how to develop each player that they have as well, not only just as technically on the field and physically, but as people. And that's probably one of the most important things. So I'm gonna kick it over to these guys. Mark and Danny are gonna take over. I'll come up at the end and then we'll get some Q&A. All right?
Thanks, Adam. Every little round of applause for Adam Gribble. My name's Mark Ewell. I'm the boys director. This is Danny Sterling, the girls director. Both of us coached within the Bangor organization prior to it becoming MTA. We even have a former Bangor player, Ellen Kwan. Raise your hand, Ellen. She also played for the Gophers. Now she helps us out a little bit. Her kids are back in playing, so that's kind of how old I am. And also I'm like a poster child for ADHD, so I'm going to be up and walking around and things like that. But thank you all for coming tonight. Adam said we didn't win all our games today, and we like winning a little bit. I like winning a lot. I like working hard and preparing and doing that part of it to try to win. And when we don't win, we go back to the drawing board and figure out what we need to do to play better and put ourselves in those situations. Why the ECNL? You can see right here, it has a great pathway, and you'll see some numbers as we go through here of being exposed in the best scenarios to the top level scouts from around the country. And there's some numbers out there that I'll talk about real quickly here, that if you go on to play college soccer, you, boys or girls, men's or women's, you're a stud. You are an exceptional athlete, right? 7% of all high school athletes go on to play a college sport. So you're already in the above 93%. It's phenomenal. So the best way to do that is obviously work very hard, have a passion about something. But for us here in what they call the flyover states in Minnesota and the Midwest, it's being able to play on a national platform in places where you will be seen by college scouts, by MLS scouts from all over the country. So any level you can get to college, that it's the right scenario for you academically, geographically, socially, economically, any of those things, and you can play a sport at that level and have that sport make your experience better, you're a stud. You are outstanding. So even here in Minnesota, we have one of the best, if not the best, Division III conferences in the country. Not this past year, but the year before, the national champion for Division III, St. Olaf. So it's phenomenal. It's a great environment, and being able to play and be exposed nationally, and you'll see some numbers here, it's impressive and it's fun and it's a great opportunity, but it's hard work. Danny Storleen, what year was it, 2008?
2008, we met in Chicago, 40 clubs. We were at the ground level building the ECNL. It was girls that started in the 2009 season then, and then the boys, what are we, 2017, right? Something like that?
Boys started 2017, but prior to that, the boys were in the U.S. Development Academy. So the girls started out in the ECNL. A year later, the boys started out in the Development Academy. So, but Danny and MTA were a part of one of the founding members of this league. That's now the top league, maybe arguably in the world for girls, in youth soccer for girls, and one of the top ones for boys. Here, now we're launching the ECNL Regional League, which is the next tier below the ECNL, which is phenomenal. It will help increase exposure for more players, give more players an opportunity to play nationally, to play regionally. Our conference on the boys team, on the boys side, is Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana. The girls side, it's a little different. You're in the Heartland Conference, is that correct? Or Midwest?
Midwest.
We're both called the Midwest, but you guys also include which states?
There's a slide. There's 8 states.
8 states for you.
16 teams.
Absolutely. For ECNL and Regional League, one of the benefits we have is being able to play high school also. So it's not a 10-month season where the high school age freshmen and older are eliminated from being able to play high school. And I can speak, I have 3 kids who came up and playing for MTA, and my son Jackson is in the MLS, and he's had a phenomenal career. He's a very fortunate young man. A couple years ago, I was asking him if he'd do anything different. Would he go play for Sporting Kansas City? Would he go to Shattuck? Would he do differently? You know, everything worked out great for me. Said, everything is what you would do. He goes, I would have played high school in my senior year. So he played his freshman year of high school and wasn't able to play after that. The one thing he missed was playing with his buddies in high school. So it's one of the very fortunate things that we have the opportunity to do here with the ECNL. I'll let Danny talk about the girls.
All right, the MTA girls, like Mark mentioned earlier, 2009, I was on a bus trip back. We were playing in Detroit and London, Ontario, and dropped me off in Chicago. We met for like 3 days and kind of built the league to where it is today. So I'm very fortunate to be part of that, and that they asked our club at the time, as Mark mentioned, Bangor and Tsunami and Minnesota Valley all kind of merged together, and then eventually becoming Minnesota Thunder Academy. But we've been in the ECNL since the 40 clubs that built it and started it, and certainly very proud of being in the league the entire time. The girls league, you can see the map here. We're in the Midwest Conference, as Mark was mentioning. It's tricky because the Midwest Conference, everybody plays spring high school soccer. We play fall high school soccer. In 2013 or 14, I want to say, we didn't play high school soccer. And as Mark mentioned, with Jackson and not being able to play, he missed out on playing with his buddies. And I think the biggest miss he had was not playing for me, right?
That's right. He goes to Jefferson, where Danny was the coach.
Anyways, kidding aside, the conference certainly is hard for us, but our girls get to play high school in the fall, and we're pretty busy in the winter months, and now just doing showcases and stuff in the spring, but you can see the map there. The conference, here are the clubs that are in the conference. So last year, I think we were third overall in points. Michigan Hawks and St. Louis Scott Gallagher were the two that were ahead of us. I think this year we might be a little bit lower than that, fourth or fifth out of the 16 teams overall, but still pretty good. Obviously third's better than fourth or fifth, but I still think that's a pretty good season. We'll have at least 3 teams in the playoffs, and hopefully more, and many of our teams finishing up in the top. We've had, I think, 5 now conference champions, that teams that have won a championship. So that's the conference teams. On the girls' side, nobody's leaving the ECNL to go play in any other league. There's not one club. You're in the ECNL, you're here. There's all kinds of people that are begging and begging and begging to get into the ECNL. So that's the standard on the girls' side where it's at. There's nothing even close. And if you were to ask college coaches, sure, there are a good GA team here and a good USYSA team here and a good player here and there and whatever, but not to the standard or the quality of this number of people that are playing college soccer in the ECNL. So you can see the alums in college since 2015 when they really started tracking it. And then the percentages and stuff of the number of players that are playing and playing in the Power 4 conference schools, just loaded with ECNL alumni. You look at the national teams and stuff, loaded with ECNL players. Sure, there's a GA kid here and a USYS kid there, but it's a high percentage of players. So you can see here, of the College Cup participants, that's the Final Four. 77% of the players on those 4 teams were from the ECNL, and nothing's even close. There might have been 10% from this league and 5% from that league, and whatever you get to make up the other 23% of the players. And you can see the other statistics here that are pretty impressive. The percentage of Power 4 individual award winners, Division I individual award winners, All-Americans, that kind of stuff. It's just loaded with ECNL players, and that number keeps going up and up and up. College scouts attended. We just got back from Phoenix spring, that's Phoenix fall, but the percent increases are here, and you're seeing stuff out there with the GA. The percent is decreasing with the number of college coaches that are at those events. Those are facts, right? That's not me being biased or whatever. That's just the fact of it. And you can see that percent increases and the number of college coaches that were at these events. We're having, with our recruitable ages, for example, our 09s and our 08s are getting somewhere, go play 3 games in Phoenix a couple weeks ago, and having somewhere in the neighborhood of 50, 60 college coaches at one single game, and having 100 and some there over the weekend. Certainly a good opportunity for our players to be seen. Pathway, these 3 young ladies here are all playing in the NWSL this year. Claire and Kaya were on our 2002 age group team. That team was undefeated and had won the Midwest Conference when we got shut down with COVID in the spring of 2020. So obviously having a great goal scorer and a great goalkeeper is a good recipe for going undefeated, and it would have been fun to make a run. We would have had as good a shot as anyone to win the national championship. Not that we would have won it because it's that hard to do, but we would have certainly been in the mix because we had already qualified for the final 16 in the country. And then Maddie Darlene, who just won a national championship at North Carolina in December and then turned pro after her junior year there. And she's also playing in the NWSL. So those three right now that are playing, as it says, MTA currently has 3 players playing in the NWSL. In the college season this year, Division I, we had 3 players that finished the season in the top 10 in scoring goals in the entire country. 3 of them were MTA. No other club had 2. We had 3 that were in there. So certainly proud of those players and what they've done, and they made it to certainly to a high level and still doing great things at this point. But you can see some of the other numbers here with the impact that the ECNL has on the pathway and getting to Power 4 schools and then on to the NWSL and the national team and those kinds of things. The regional league. So for the girls, it's a little bit different. We are playing in a regional league that's called the Twin Cities Regional League. The other teams, so we'll have the ECNL team and ECNL Regional League team. The nice thing with this is they'll be able to get into the ECNL events where the college recruiting and the college scouts that are there are significantly higher than just other events alone. So there'll be other teams from Minnesota that are regional league, which is very good, but it's not ECNL playing in the regular ECNL league. So this is new this year. A lot of those teams that you saw and the NPL league will be some of those clubs that will be playing in the ECNL regional league. So it's a little bit different than it's been, kind of a rebranding, I guess, for lack of a better word, but this is what it looks like going forward for us. ECNL Regional League for the girls. Twin Cities, there is an ECNL Regional League Midwest, but as I mentioned earlier, the high school thing creates a major problem. We're the only one up here for the ECNL. So when people come, they got to play one game. They're not happy about traveling 6, 7, 8 hours to play one. They got to come in the winter time because we're playing high school until November 1, and they start basically March 1. So November, December, January, February, we're busy playing games, which not that much else to do in Minnesota anyway. So it actually works out pretty good. Just an overview on this, the number of clubs in the regional league. This is different than just the ECNL. The regional league will be up to 276 girls clubs, 20 girls leagues, 30,000 players. That's the regional league. The other league, not that many. I think we're at 100 and some teams in just the ECNL. The college exposure, as I just mentioned earlier, 6 ECNL regional league events for the recruitable ages. So that'll be different than some of the other events. So if you didn't make the ECNL team, still playing on that regional league team will be a good pathway with going to those events. And that's where the exposure is really important. Once again, the events, college coaches, as I said, I mean, we write them down. We have a parent that goes around, hands out our player profile. Danny, there was 58. They send it out to the entire team, 58 college coaches at that event, 60 at that game, 70 at that game, whatever, and you start to add them up, and there's a lot for just the game, but this is per event. They're obviously not all 400 coming to the one game because there's 20 games going on at the same time, but when you get 50 or 60 college coaches at one game, as I mentioned earlier, that's awesome. Once again, with the ECNL Twin Cities Regional League, some of the benefits, some of the part of it that's important. The NPL Super is now ECNL Regional League. Like I said, just a rebranding. I mentioned that earlier. NPL Premier is now Minnesota NPL. So that's the stuff that a little bit of change. Our teams played in the Super. Now they'll play in the ECNL Regional League with some other clubs that you might be familiar with from the Twin Cities. So ECNL Regional League Twin Cities versus ECNL Regional League Midwest. Mark will talk more about the boys part of it being the Midwest. But the benefits, Access to showcases, as I mentioned already, that's gonna be one of the best benefits that we have instead of going to these events and hoping and praying that we get college coaches there at these regional league events. As you can see with the numbers, have been pretty successful so far. Postseason pathway for the ECNL Regional League Twin Cities, so there is a chance to make it into a playoff. You have to qualify for that, so the Twin Cities League winners will advance to the Regional League postseason, which the playoffs have been in June. I think next year might be a little bit different, Regional League. Are they changing Regional
Because
League?
of the World Cup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the ECNL ones are July, the Regional League ones, July too.
Yeah.
I think.
They're gonna be sending out more details. So next year with the World Cup being here, a lot of the playoff structure will look a little bit different than it has like year over year. So if you look at 24 dates and you're trying to like, oh, let's start to plan around some of this. As you've seen this year, things can change, right? And boy, do we not like summer plans changing in March, because that's not how families function. But so all we're saying is like a lot of the regional league stuff is still coming out, and we'll let people know as soon as that stuff comes out. But with the 2026 World Cup, expect that the dates aren't gonna be the same year over year.
And part of the reason with the sites where they host playoffs, their sites also for a World Cup, hotel rooms is the real big issue with that.
Before we get to Mark on the boys side, thanks, Danny. How many, quick raise of hands, if anyone here has a kid playing in, or you are playing in the NPL right now? Okay, we got a bunch of people here. So biggest difference, right? NPL, Premier, now it's just Minnesota NPL. There's just one NPL. Then MPL Super switches over to ECNL Regional League. Key thing there is now you've got two different playoff structures that you can qualify to, whereas previously at NPL Premier, you're fighting to be promoted up to MPSL Super, which is still going to be a thing. There's Pro Rel there locally, but there's also going to be additional now playoff structure and pathways that come with it. So just want to make that differentiation, because there is going to be a little bit more soccer available, going on to more of a playoff structure for both of those.
Thanks, Adam. To that point, to this slide, that the boys side will be competing in the ECNL, as we always have, and the ECNL Regional League, which is the same Midwest Conference. And then also in our ECNL Regional League teams will be competing in the local leagues also, whether it's ECNL Regional League Twin Cities, and I know the nomenclature is confusing because they're named the same thing, Regional League, and then also Minnesota NPL. So there you go. This is the map of the teams in the country. There are actually more boys clubs in the ECNL than there are girls clubs now. So it's grown and grown over the last few years. Our conference, the Midwest Conference, is now just changed. It's 7 clubs. They moved one of the clubs in our conference that was Indianapolis to the Ohio Valley Conference, and they will look to replace that with a club probably in the Chicagoland area. And that is by virtue of a promotion from the Chicago ECNL Regional League. So there is a promotional piece to the ECNL on the boys and the girls side. There's a possibility, if there's a vacancy, where a club can move up, and there's a possibility you can get moved out if you're not performing well. And it's not just wins and losses, it's across the board in a number of different criteria. Back to that slide for a second, you can see we traveled to the northern Chicago area to play Chicago Magic. We had them in town yesterday. FC Wisconsin, the Milwaukee area, they were in town today. We traveled to Rockford, Illinois, and the Naperville area to play Rockford Raptors and Eclipse. We traveled to the northern Indiana area, Portage/Hammond area, and play Indiana Elite. The club that is in Indianapolis is now in a new conference is FC Pride out of the Indianapolis area, and then our local derby against St. Croix. 1,670 college and professional commitments. That's from last year alone. That's a great number. Again, I talked earlier about opportunities. you have to still do well in school. You have to do well on the soccer field. You have to behave well on social media, but the opportunities are there. This is the number that is really kind of phenomenal to me. And on the girls' side, the numbers are even higher. It is an impressive thing, and you really don't understand those numbers until you go to an ECNL showcase event and see 35 to 50 college soccer programs sitting on the sideline of your kid's game, shoulder to shoulder. Stanford sitting next to Indiana, sitting next, to St. Thomas sitting next to. It's impressive. On the girls' side, I've been at a girls' showcase game where they had over 90 college programs sitting at their one MTA game with, how many of you guys know the name Anson Dorrance? Anybody? Anson Dorrance just retired this year, University of North Carolina, won the most number of college championships of any soccer program in the country. He would go and position himself in between the two benches, fold his arms like this, and everybody else sits on the outside of the benches, shoulder to shoulder to shoulder to shoulder. So unless you actually see it, and there you can actually see kind of on the slides here, it's impressive. That's not just attending the event, that's at your kid's soccer game. It's a great opportunity. My son played soccer at UCLA. There's zero chance that he goes to UCLA. He's not that great of a student. Zero chance that he goes to UCLA without this type of avenue to get him there. My daughter played Division I soccer also. Both of these opportunities came because they were able to play on a national stage, compared themselves to known entities, clubs, and players that these college coaches are familiar with. MLS Super Draft, 20 ECNL drafted last year alone. That's impressive. That's fantastic. The regional league is the fastest growing platform in terms of numbers and growth of soccer in the last couple of years. It is regionalized competition. It is an opportunity for more players to play in this venue, to get the opportunities to train. And Adam talked about the MTA club. It's not a community club. It's really a place where like-minded players and players who have families who are like-minded about being serious about soccer. It's rare on the ECNL level and now the ECNL regional level where you're missing more than 2 players for training. You show up because it's important to people. So that's why the growth has been there, because it's important to people. There's a commitment to it, but not just a commitment in terms of, hey, we signed up, we're there. It's this is what our kid wants to do and we want to support that. 282 boys clubs, 22 leagues. You might also call those conferences, 31,000 players. It's been growing and growing. It's a phenomenal growth, and it's a great opportunity to be involved in, well, one of the strongest organizations in youth sports in the country. Average of 275 college scouts per event. The ECNL started when they started out in 2008. They ran 6 national events, including national playoffs. They're now run 36 national events: boys, girls, regional league boys, regional league girls, playoffs for all of them. It's they really kind of become a more event company, but it's soccer focused, obviously. But all of the events that they plan, all of the showcases that they host are strategically placed geographically and time-wise, where college coaches can gather and they can make it as easy as possible for them to get there. They don't have massive budgets to fly all over and recruit like some of the other bigger sports do, the money revenue sports in college. So they try to be strategic in how they build those events to get more coaches there, more coaches attending, more coaches watching your kids. Our conference, as I mentioned it before, we have 6 in the regional league. The reason it's not 7 is because one of the clubs in Illinois, Eclipse, out of Naperville, they choose to do something else. They don't participate in the regional league. But all the other 6 will going forward this year. St. Croix and ourselves are the 2 new ones joining the ECNL Regional League Midwest Conference. I mentioned earlier, it's a little confusing because the local league is also now an ECNL Regional League, Twin Cities. That's not based on your club, that's based on your team qualifications. So if you, a club may have a team in the NPL Supergroup, that will now change its name to ECNL Regional League. If you have a team in the NPL Premier or in the TCSL, you'll still be in those leagues. But it's not based on the whole club. For the ECNL Midwest Conference, all 6 of our ages, U13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, all of them are now in the ECNL Regional League. We're all in there. We also have those teams playing whatever local league they'll qualify for. If they've qualified for ECNL Regional League Twin Cities, they'll play in 2 regional leagues. Or they'll play in the NPL Premier, or they'll play in the TCSL, whatever level they've currently qualified for. What makes MTA unique? That's a great question. We have a lot of great answers for you. Our coaching staffs, I'm so proud of our coaching staff. We have current college coaches, we have former college coaches, we have former Division 1, 2, and 3 players that are coaches. We have A licensed coaches. Skylar Schultz, one of our coaches, just completed his UEFA C license in Ireland. So we have a great staff that coaching soccer is what they do. It is our passion. It is what we pursue. And our goal is to help our kids achieve their goals. It's as simple as that. We also have phenomenal facilities, and we have the best operations staff. We have grown from a small to kind of a boys program, kind of independently doing what we did, the girls, Bangu Tsunami, into a 900 plus player club, which is phenomenal. We have 2 facilities, Academy of Holy Angels and our Winter Park facility here. So proud of the pathway that we've taken as a group, and it's come with a lot of hard work. Adam mentioned, we've helped build this, Danny and I, from the beginning, but it was a lot of people, to use the Gopher football, paddling the right direction, the same way.
4 teams at one point, and now we're at 900 plus players.
Yeah. I mentioned it's a group of players and families that are committed to soccer. My whole thing with kids here is that they find their love for soccer, and they enjoy it and have a great time. That we help build, at the younger ages in particular, soccer junkies, soccer dorks, soccer nerds. Kids who just love a soccer ball at their feet. They juggle it, they play with it. They're probably breaking something in the house with their soccer ball. It's gonna happen. Sorry, Mom, I didn't tell them to do that, but they did it anyway. It's for kids who are really ambitious about playing this sport, because everybody on your team feels the same way about it. I mentioned our experience in coaches. The ECNL has started a program with continuing education. You have to have continuing education units every single year. They have worked worldwide to put together a training program for that. We also are involved in Safe Sport, which is training on concussion, on dealing with heart failure on the field. There's a lot of protocol that goes into it. And every year we have a symposium where, what did we have? Over 800 coaches and directors attended this past year, and they do 3 days of presentations on our sport, on how we can educate the coaches, give them more information, empower them better to lead our kids in what they love to do. It's pretty cool. It's really cool. In fact, Anson Dorrance was there speaking this year. 44 professional players, 8 senior national team players, 31 youth national players. The one that's really impressive to me is Mr. or Ms. Soccer for the last 24 consecutive years have been an MTA or Bangu player. That's again, there are other really great coaches and really great clubs out there, but those players tend to gravitate here. They tend to come to want to play together with other kids who are interested in being at that level. MTA are the National Gatorade or State Gatorade Players of the Year through Minnesota. Who was it this past year on the girls' side?
Haven't announced it yet.
The year before. Joe Highfield was the year before, Izzy Engel. Izzy Engel was one of the, top 10, scorers as a freshman this year at Notre Dame. And she was the Gatorade Player of the Year this past year, or last year, actually. Tensing Walker, new player to our club, Highland Park High School. Mr. Soccer this year, Jenna Malloy, White Bear Lake High School, Ms. Soccer for the 3A schools. At our younger ages, and again, it's where we want to get the kids loving soccer. And we've gone from, and I'm not kidding you on this, about 6-7 years ago, we had a combined U9 and U10 boys age group. Now we have 5 teams at the U8 age group, 4 teams at the U9 age group. Same numbers on the girls' side. It has grown phenomenally, and the interest in playing with other kids that are similar and like that has just helped us grow our facilities, our organization with and I do say this with a lot of pride, but our staff is the best out there. But it grows into what we're hoping to do is get the kids into the ECNL level. So we prepare them in the pre-ECNL level and give them an introduction to that. There's an introduction when you're playing 9v9 into going to 11v11. The pre-ECNL on the girls' side and the boys' side participate in an ECNL showcase. For the boys, the last 2 years, it was down in St. Louis. So we go play other ECNL clubs before you're actually at that level. So you dip your toe in the water. You get to have a little taste of what it is and what it's like. You learn how to travel. You learn how to behave in a hotel room. You learn that the swimming pool isn't the reason you're there. Running in the hallways isn't what you're there for. You're there for one reason. That's to play the best soccer you can play. And that's a process because it doesn't happen at U12s very easily. A little bit better at 13s, a little bit better at 14s and 15s. Then as the time when the college coaches start watching you, this is what you do. You understand the preparation, the recovery, the diet, the hydration, the getting enough sleep. It's all part of it, but it starts with the pre-ECNL. Our training environment is fantastic. 3 times a week, 75 minutes each time with what we call our plus 30 program. So there's 30 minutes of dynamic warm-up, skill building. Coaches could do we have meeting rooms with big screen TVs and whiteboards. Coaches can use that part of it also. So it's 75 minutes plus 30 minutes 3 times a week. One of those times on both the boys and the girls is a full field night where you play a full field game every week. It's a massive advantage to be able to work on something 2 days, go put it into action in a full field game, and then figure out what you need to do better and go work on it again, put it into action a week later, all in preparation for getting ready to play in games that matter with points. We have goalkeeping training. Our goalkeeper director, Terry Leindecker, is former All-American at St. John's University. Danny says he's the nicest guy in the country. I think he might be selling that short. He may be the nicest guy in the world. He has coached goalies and helped develop goalies. The national champion, Claire Gagne. We have a current goalie who's about to graduate from Stanford on the boys' side, a guy who played at UCLA, Creighton, the Naval Academy, Central Florida, Northern Illinois. The list, and on the girls' side, the list is just as long and just as prestigious. Terry is phenomenal. And now he's working on developing a couple other coaches to help and be able to work with more goalkeepers within our club. So the goalkeepers get another session. If you are below high school age, you get about 38 goalkeeping sessions in a year. If you're high school age because you miss out on the fall because you're playing high school soccer, it's about 32, 33 sessions of goalkeeping training specifically. Our goalkeepers, we take a lot of pride in that. They're very good. We work with Training House. They have a location here in our facility here. They work on speed, agility, quickness, and injury prevention. We deliver presentations on sleep and on nutrition. So we're trying to build holistically the whole player there. I mentioned video analysis. We have invested in huddle cameras. We videotape, any of the teams in our club can check out those cameras. The ECNL teams are mandated to record the games. So the home team's mandated to record the games and put them on a partnership with Huddle and the ECNL and the Huddle League exchange platform there. We also, on the boys and the girls side, run a mentorship program. That's where we get our oldest players, the players who have been through it, seen it, done it, working with the younger players. We meet 3 to 4 times a season. Danny and the girls just had their most recent one tonight over at Holy Angels. The boys had our most recent one 2 weeks ago here at Winter Park, where we worked on, the older players led the younger players on what it means to prepare for a training session, prepare for a game. Prior to that, we worked on sleep and nutrition. Prior to that, we worked on what the importance of getting good grades is. You know, there's a lot of help within our organization. And if you have a player who's struggling with a certain class, it's very likely we have an older player who's good at that subject. We could pair them together and they could sit down here before our training session and meet and maybe go over that. There's a lot of help here. There's a lot of kids who've been there and done that. We like to lean on them. We also quite often have a lot of alumni coming back to play soccer, whether it's over the holidays in between their seasons or they're just in the neighborhood. We have I don't know, maybe there's a slide on the WPSL team that we coach here, that we run here on the girls' side, and then the boys' side, we have a partnership with Minneapolis City. The girls' roster is all MTA players.
All MTA.
Minneapolis City has a high number of MTA players on their roster. We've already kind of touched on this. The showcases are an avenue where you don't play to a tournament champion. You play against other teams that are actually fairly similar to yours, meaning they pair up the top 3 teams from your conference against the top 3 teams from another conference, the middle 3 teams from your conference against the middle 3 teams from another conference, and so on and so forth. So you meet like competition. At the beginning of those showcases, they have what's called a national selection game. This year, the girls have participated in 3 showcases, I believe, and have had 3 players chosen to play in the national selection game. It's an all-star game before the tournament. It's on the first night, before the showcase. It's on the first night of the showcase. It's televised via the Huddle League Exchange. They have announcers for it. It's a pretty cool event where the whole field, all 4 sides of it, are just lined with all the teams and players and parents attending that event. Literally thousands of kids and people there watching, and our kids from our club are playing in that. The boys' older teams have attended 2 showcases this year, and we've had boys playing in both of those showcase games. It's really cool. It's a very cool event, and it leads up to, again, preparation for what's next. Coming up here, then we'll have the national finals. The national finals for the boys are in Seattle, for the girls are San Diego. They tend to flip-flop every year. So last year, the boys' national playoffs were in San Diego. Pretty cool place to be. Seattle also, great venue. 50 acres park?
60 acres.
68, it got bigger. 60 acres park. Having said all this, we have high expectations about commitment, about effort, attitude, the things you can control. We ask you to be a great teammate, all of your teammates. We want you to support your kids. We want, as a parent, not to just cheer for your kid, but to cheer for the whole team. We ask you to be on time. There's a lot of life lessons that, as Adam mentioned earlier, that are important, that have more to do with than just soccer. He mentioned development is nonlinear. At the youngest ages, my daughter Madison was kind of small, and she didn't make the top team as a U13 player. She didn't make the top team as 14s, didn't make it as 15s, didn't make it as 16s, made it as 17s, and got a 90% college scholarship. So her development wasn't just a straight line here. It kind of plateaued, and then when she got more serious and her body changed a little bit, it took off. So it's not always the same for everybody. It is something that we know. I like intelligent soccer players that are great teammates. And I don't really care if you're this tall or this tall. You gotta be a good dude. One of the important things, and we're proud about, is the players that have come before you. As you walk down the hall right there, if you haven't been here before, you take a minute to take a little tour, you'll see we have our hall of, what we call our Hall of Heroes. It's the people who've come here and played and achieved wonderful things, whether it's professionally, collegiately, or both. But they've really put MTA and Minnesota on a map that you can be recruited here and you can be successful here. You don't have to be from Southern California or Texas or the East Coast. You can actually excel out of Minnesota here. It's great. They've laid a great foundation for the rest of us. There you go. That's at a girls' event right there. Coaches next to coaches next to coaches. That's not just attending the event, that's at one game. You can kind of read through this. MTA 2025, 24, and 23, the last 3 years. It's not that there aren't great players at other clubs, that our players have a wonderful advantage to attend great showcases and play in front of more college representatives, college scouts.
You know, Mark at the very beginning said how hard it is for players at a youth level to go on and play collegiately. Like the numbers for D1 is around like 2%, and that's an average between, it's a little bit higher on the girls' side.
1.7% specifically.
Thank you. So that when you take a look at that, and then when you look at the numbers there, it's like 93% of the ECNL girls seniors this year are already committed. Not even commitment day. Like, so the numbers there speak for themselves because of the programs these guys have built, the platform, the opportunities that they're provided, right? So there's the return there is really high. And again, there's a lot of different reasons for that. These guys have Rolodexes. We've been doing it. And that's, I think, if we're going to talk about one thing at all today, the biggest thing is that I think there's a lot of really good clubs that are out there. They're doing awesome things in Minnesota. I truly believe that. I also really believe in what MTA is doing. And probably the biggest difference is what you're going to see here is that we're going to put up the things that we've already done, that we're still doing, and that how we're fine tuning it. So that's what I like. That's the really cool position I came into, is I get to know these people and see what the things that they've done. And then the answer is, now we're talking about how do we go from good to great? How do we make this thing even better, and tweaking things on the margins and starting to play around with some different programming? That's what we're talking about. I would venture if you're going to go to some other clubs, you're going to hear a little bit about what they would like to do and where they want to be. And I really have a lot of admiration for that. And that's the only ask I have for parents here, is that, like, you should ask those questions, because we're still in a pay-to-play model here in the US, and it's not cheap. And I get up like when I wake up, I think about that and how we make our programming cheaper. And this is why we're doing a lot of things in sponsorship and fundraising. But look, so when you're making that decision as a parent, ask the questions. And what you're going to see, like what these guys have talked about, is like, we're doing those things. You can see the success here, and that those things don't just come out of happenstance. So that's my biggest thing, and I wanted to stand up and just reinforce that, Mark, because you guys have built something awesome here, and we're going to continue to do that. But the big thing is that we've been doing it. There's a blueprint. We've built it. Now we're going to continually make it better year over year. So when you have certain organizations stand up and say, this is what we want to do, and here's what we're going to do, just pay attention to that.
Adam mentioned soccer is expensive, and it is. One of the boons here in Minnesota that makes it expensive is we have to pay for indoor time. Rental of domes, rental of field house facilities. Somebody throw out some numbers. What would you guess it is an hour to rent a dome? Come on, let's hear some numbers. 300, 600. Anyone else? 800. 100. There you go. Yes, $500 an hour. We just played Chicago Magic yesterday. They're from the northern, Chicago area, Lake Forest, Waukegan, that area. Now guess how much it is to rent per hour there? $1,750 an hour. We're paying $500. They're paying more than 3 times that amount. We're unfortunate that our climate makes us have to rent time to all winter long. We are fortunate that there are more than 30 indoor facilities here in the Twin Cities. There are 5 or 6 in the Chicago area. $1,700 an hour. They would die to pay $500. He told me, Bato, who's the director for the Chicago Magic, if he had that opportunity, he'd sign a 30-year lease at twice the number, and he'd sublet it and make a killing. So it's expensive. It's a commitment financially. It's a commitment with time. It's not just a player commitment. It's a family commitment. So it's not. I don't want to. I mean, we have a lot of wonderful things to talk about, but it's a big commitment for sure.
When you make an ECNL girls team, you are in the top 1% of youth soccer players in the United States. So when your kid was born 12, 15 years ago, whatever, and they were going to be passionate about something, and you said, hey, if they could be in the top 1% of what they're passionate about, you'd make that deal right then, wouldn't you? And that's when they make an ECNL girls top level team, that's where they are. They're in the top 1%, and some of them are in the top, whatever, break it down even further than that, 0.5% or 0.25% or whatever. So when you think about what your kids really love to do, soccer in this case, and 15 years ago or 12 years ago or whatever, it's pretty awesome to think about. That's where your kid's at when they make an MTA ECNL team.
I know there are more people in this room can say the same thing, but some of my closest friends to this day, and I'm way older than everybody in this room, are from sports teams. My generation didn't have to do conscripted service. We didn't get drafted into the military, but we played sports. We were in the hockey rinks, on the basketball courts, on the football fields, and the soccer fields. Those are my guys that I go to battle with, and I still golf with them and play pickleball with them and complain about how sore we are because we're old. But we were talking earlier about a friend of mine. We're still best friends from 12 years old, John Swallen. Yeah, it's the relationships they grow and they develop from things like this. Things like this. You good? All right, we already talked about this a little bit with Training House, but TCO is our partner, Twin Cities Orthopedic. One of the top doctors within TCO, he's the Vikings knee and hip surgeon. His son came up playing with MTA, and he plays Division I soccer in Texas now. It's a very fortunate relationship. They are a good partner of ours. We love having them as a partner. They help us with continuing education with our players, also nutrition, sleep, recovery. It's a great relationship, phenomenal relationship.
They're on the front of our practice jerseys. They provide trainers for ECNL games. They give us a little bit of money. The Training House is a strength and conditioning, as Mark mentioned earlier. So yeah, awesome partnership.
This is a great one here. Being phenomenal in Minnesota is great. We're a metropolitan area of about 4 million people. And then there's Chicago with close to 11 million people. And then the just different areas of the country. So being able to compete and being a big fish in a small pond of Minnesota, but being able to make that pond bigger so you can compete on that stage at that level is critical for getting your foot in the door for what you want to do next, what your goals are, what your hopes and aspirations are. And it's becoming difficult, especially on the men's side, with the transfer portal, with the increased activity of recruiting international students. We have 4 players who graduated last year that went and did a gap year in Spain this last year. 2 of them just made Division I commitments. One made a Division III commitment, and the other one's mulling over his opportunities, and he's about to decide soon. So the environment is changing. It's changing dramatically. We do have, on the men's side, a Division I school here now in Minnesota, finally. It's fantastic. I mentioned before, we have, one of the best, if not the best, Division III conference in the country. We have one Division II school here in Minnesota, St. Cloud State. So there are opportunities, but it is hard. It is difficult. And I tell this story to all the players, and those of you sitting here, listen to this. My son who played at UCLA, he was fortunate to be recruited by Indiana, Maryland, Notre Dame, Washington, Stanford, obviously UCLA, all the top soccer schools in the country. You know what the first question that every one of those coaches asked him? How are your grades? Grades are important. Grades get you into school. You can be Lionel Messi, but if you can't get into their school, doesn't matter how good of a soccer player you are. So it's important. It's something we will talk about. It's something we will ask you questions about. It is, again, my son's in his 9th year of being an MLS player. He's only 28 years old. He's got a great paycheck, but he isn't going to be able to retire for 35 years and not work. He's going to have millions of dollars in the bank account, and he's got to still go find a job, and he doesn't have a college degree yet. He's talking about, now I got to go back and finish school. So it's important. The grades are important. They get you in the door. One of his teammates played and graduated from Harvard. He took the ACT 3 times to get into Harvard, but now he's a Harvard grad. It's important. Tryouts. Tryouts are different times this year than what we're normally doing, and they're at the same time as everyone else. July 20th, 21st, for boys and girls. It's a busy time of year. It's crazy. Adam talked briefly about a lot of clubs and coaches. You're going to hear, we're planning to do this. We're going to do that. It is the time of year when sane people go a little crazy and crazy people go off the deep end. It just is. I encourage you, come and talk to me, come and talk to Danny, come and talk to Adam, talk to the coaches directly for other clubs. Get it from the horse's mouth, what's happening with their club, what they're doing. It's important. Having the proper information is important when you're making these decisions.
Tryouts open up in 2 weeks, as you can see here, May 1, whatever it is, 2.5 weeks to try out where you can register.
Pre-trial clinics, because the dates change, because a lot of tryouts are at the same time, we encourage you to come to sign up for and come to our tryout clinics. We have families, because we were planning on our tryouts being July 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. And they made plans to go to Europe. They made plans to do other things. And so if for any reason you can't attend a tryout and you want to be part of we can't offer you spots at these tryout camps and clinics, ID camps and clinics. But if you want to be seen, this is that you have to attend those. You know, sending me a video of how great your kid is just isn't going to do it.
More times,
even though your kid is great.
More times we see your player, obviously
The better.
more information we have, we can make a better decision.
Here's one that I think is key. Have a discussion about where you're with your kid, with your player, or kid talking to you players, with your parents on what you want to commit to, what your plans are. So when you show up at tryouts, you can say, yeah, this is where I want to be. I want to commit to this if I'm offered a spot. It's important. Because the longer you take to make a decision, the longer it pushes out to other people, and we'll move on to the next player. It's as simple as that. So know what you want to do ahead of time. It's that part of it's key. And you've done the first step in attending tonight. Getting the information, hearing about what it's like, getting to know Mark and Danny and how miserable we are.
Okay, so that's the information today. What we're gonna do is we'll do a little bit of Q&A here, but let's go back a couple. Big things here are, we know when tryouts are, right? Go back one more. We'll send this information out. You'll see it on our website. You'll be able to register. if for whatever reason, now you can flick one forward, if for whatever reason, you know, things changed on your end, can't be there for some reason for a tryout, we'd really encourage you to take advantage of a pre-tryout clinic. That's gonna look like a training session with the current ECNL team and coach. Okay, so they're gonna come on out to the training session. They'll get involved directly with the team so so the coaches can start to see what your child is like at the level. It'll be a great opportunity, right? We're gonna have a couple different dates and opportunities for that. So that information will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. Everyone that's here or RSVP'd, we'll get that in their inbox. We'll also put it on our website. We'll send it out. We'll blitz it out. Okay, so great opportunity. If you aren't able to be at tryouts, even if you can be at tryouts, you want to come check it out. Like, we want to provide those different opportunities to be seen. Now, want to also just make that qualifier, if you're already within the club. And I think these guys would to attest to it, where you can stop me and kick me under the table. If you're already in the club, it's kind of a year-long tryout. And it's kind of a weird thing to say, but like, we're always evaluating, we're always watching. And I think that's one of the benefits why you've seen, so when Danny sits over there and says, we're a 6-team club not so long ago, why do you think it's like we've grown now? We have 59 teams in the organization. There's been 30% growth over the last 5 years, year over year. And I think what we're seeing is because we talked about development's not linear. And so just because you make a team here, do you think like kids don't grow within like, man, especially like U12, like U11 through U14, it's like you got a kid that's like this tall with a mustache playing with a kid that's like this tall. You're like, whoa, this is a strange thing, but that's what development is. And it doesn't just happen at tryouts once a year. So we're trying to create an environment where appropriately challenging your child wherever they're at. I was astounded taking over this organization, having conversations with parents. How many people not only train 3 nights a week and then play a game, maybe 2 in a week, but then they go do training house and maybe they do a little bit of extra on the side, or they're playing futsal. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So then we also talk about it being a commitment. There's a financial commitment, but not only that, as any of the parents here know, it's a family commitment. All of a sudden vacations look a little bit different during the summer. And like, we're spending a lot of time in the clubhouse here doing just all the family things. Look, it's a big commitment in terms of travel and just your time. So that's why we take this stuff really seriously. That means a lot to us. We want you to be around good people that are looking out for your kids and care about them holistically, not just about soccer, but off the field as well. All of it matters. So that's why we do nights tonight. We want you to get to know us. We want you to start to get to know each other. So continue to ask those questions, because we can understand that these are big decisions. Okay. So a couple questions. We'll go from 5 to 10 minutes. We'll take any questions from the crowd here. Feel free to raise your hand. We'll just start rattling them off.
Fire away.
Can you speak to the support for athletes as they get closer to college and right?
So our boys' college ID camp is coming up next Saturday, the 19th. And the first thing we'll do there is get the college coaches that are working the camp to talk about what's important at an ID camp. How do you present yourself? Going and introducing yourself right off the bat, looking the coach in the eye, shake their hand. How you walk into the room. You are not coming in with your earbuds in and your Crocs on, and your Crocs, one's over there and one's over here, and you leave your phone out and everything. You are kind of buttoned up and put together, and you're acting like you want to be there. You present yourself in that way. That's a great question.
So Mark mentioned earlier, so we've now invested in a technology called Huddle. So you're gonna see, you go to any of these fields now, you're gonna see these AI cameras lining everywhere. it's a little bit different from when we used to coach. You had to figure out someone to kind of do this. So we have the footage, right? We also have a bunch of cameras that people can rent out from a team structure. So it's like you're traveling, what have you. And then we send out a lot of information on how to break that down, on how to do those different highlight videos. What you're gonna see is like on both the boys and girls side, we have a college advisory program. They do webinars with current college coaches. We talk through the, like, at different stages, starting around your sophomore year of what you're gonna wanna do to set yourself up for success. And again, I think the efficacy is there in terms of just like what these guys have done and the numbers that you see coming out. So the best thing is that both these gentlemen have been doing it a while and their Rolodexes are huge. So those conversations coming to them and saying, here's what we want to do. These guys, what really is kind of a remarkable thing is like throughout the growth, it's still about the personal connections. So there's the different programs, there's highlight videos, there's all this, but it's more about meeting with them and saying, here's my goals, and they're gonna help you with your expectations, and they're gonna find the right spot.
I'll add two more pieces to that. Creating the highlight reel is still on the player to do. We will advise them on what the colleges are looking for, on how they should go about doing that. I'll go through and I'll watch it and I'll make comments about it. But also, I'll mention this based on my personal experience, it's the last thing that you'll do with your kid in terms of choosing a college and going through that process. Don't do it for them, but participate in it before your kid gets married. That's the next thing you'll do. But it's really the last, they'll go off to college and they'll find an internship and they'll find a job and they'll do whatever. It's really one of the last things you'll participate in with your kid. It's really kind of a sad thing, but it's also a wonderful thing. Don't do it for them, like I said, but be a part of it. Take them on campus visits. We go play Chicago Magic. There are 6, 7 different colleges, campuses you can go visit on that weekend. Different showcases you go to, whether it's Seattle or Las Vegas or Lakewood Ranch, Florida, or St. Louis, wherever it is, go visit, go walk around a campus, go do these things with your kid. I've mentioned Jackson a few times. You know, my daughter Madison's by far my favorite. So let's just be clear there. Jackson's scientific way of going about after his sophomore year, I made him sit down and write out a list of schools. Where do you want to go to school? His scientific way was looking at the top 20 ranked schools in the country and picking all the ones in a warm climate. He said, handed me a list. Here you go, Dad. And he was out the door. All right, whatever. But however it is, we talk big pictures, mountains, oceans. Do you want to be in an urban environment, in a rural environment? Talk big picture stuff, but go through it with your kid. Participate with, that's a personal recommendation I have for you.
The video stuff is important for sure. But the nice thing for our teams is they're in front of, like I mentioned earlier, 150 college coaches in one event. And, you know, watching a lot of video during COVID and watching players, I think if I'm a college coach, I'd rather see them in person play. I think it's good to have. But if you play in Bemidji, Minnesota, and you're on a club team in Bemidji, well, then you're not going to be in front of 150 college coaches, and then it's really important. But for our players, important, sure, but not as important. And we look at videos and tell people, I mean, I had the president of Iowa Soccer 10 years ago send me his daughter's video for a profile on that. And I'm like, don't send that to anyone. It was terrible. And they fixed it up and then it was a lot better. And she was a terrible player. What they put together wasn't very good. Not that I'm some kind of expert on making the video, but I looked at it and went, this isn't great. Mark mentioned it. The grades, and then they're going to come and watch you play. And if you can check those 2 boxes, then now we're talking. But if you don't have the grades and they come and watch you play, and maybe I think Mark's great, or maybe I don't think Mark's great, and somebody else does. I mean, there's so many opportunities, especially in the women's game. You've got 300 and whatever it is now, 30 Division I women's programs, and there's 140 Division I men's programs. What is it?
147.
147. So, I mean, there's twice as many Division I opportunities for women. And then with the changes in the scholarship stuff now, I mean, there's schools that went from 14 to 28 now boy, there's a lot of money there. Not everybody has 28, but some do.
Good question.
My other question was, well, I know it's not pertinent this upcoming year, the age change, that's 26, 27. Have you had any discussions? I know you don't.
We have to change too.
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, so it'll change to like, right now it's based on birth year, right? So if you're born in the year 2008, you plan a 2008 team, right? Again, within our environment, we always look for opportunities like you can train up. Like there's always opportunities for that. If that's developmentally appropriate, we deem that so, like that happens all the time here. But next year, not 25, 26, but 26, 27, it switches to school year. So September 1 through August 31. That's how it gets broken down. So we will subscribe to that, and that will be what happens here. And so I think the questions will come of like, when you have kids that are close to the cusp either way, we're gonna follow it by the letter, because that's just what we have to do. And people, now, the consternation will come is like, when you're on existing team structure, you say like, well, what about me? I wanna stay with that team. Look, there's no way for us to answer that currently, and certainly not in a global sense. Like things will be looked at case by case but I'm saying for the most part, we're gonna have to follow the rules as they're set out, and teams will be built that way. Look, I do want to say this in like a larger sense, is that all these things, when I talked about earlier, like you might not love every single thing that happens, but you know, I don't love everything that happens at my child's school either. And so like, the point is that like sometimes hard things are development. So sometimes that means changing an environment, like a team environment. But I want to really confident in is like kids' ability to be resilient and make new friends. It's actually probably harder for parents because they're like, oh my gosh, I have to go meet new parents. Like, I really like this parent group, right? I get that a lot. That actually is really important. But across the board, we've got really awesome parents here. I don't know, there's something in the water. Really good people, really good team structures, great kids.
Great directors, that's why. Any other questions? Yeah, that's a great question. So I can speak only for the boys' side here. We do a home and away fixtures with the other teams in our conference. So they come here for one game, we go there for one game, and you have a travel partner. Our travel partner is St. Croix. St. Croix and MTA, not this coming weekend, Easter weekend, the following weekend, we'll go play in Rockford. St. Croix will play Eclipse in Naperville on Saturday, and on Sunday we switch, and we play Eclipse on Sunday and then come home. So we have 3 travel league weekends and at least 2 showcase weekends. So 5 traveling trips total on the boys' side. On the girls' side,
On the
it's
girls' side, we
way
have
different.
4 conference for the older ones, probably 5 weekends conference. So like, we already know Detroit, Kansas City, St. Louis, those 4, for the 08, 09, 10, 11 for next year. One additional one for the 11s, for the 11s and 12s, whatever it is, yeah. Anyways, you get the idea. And then 2 to 3 showcases, plus we make the playoffs a lot, so that would be an additional one. So like my 08s are 10 trips this year. That's a lot. They're usually not that many, more, I would say, in the 5-6 range on the girls' side.
So how many games do the boys actually play if there's?
The boys will get 20 ECNL games, because, is that right? Yeah, 14 league games, and the older teams will go to 2 showcases, so that's an additional 6 ECNL games. Then we also play Minnesota United, we play local club teams, we host our own college showcase, that's an additional 2 games. So it ends up being close 33 to 38 games for the season. Now, if you go to playoffs, you're gonna add anywhere between 3 and 5 additional games to that.
Girls are similar.
Girls are similar.
Look, the number of games is an interesting one that comes up frequently. So there's a couple interesting things I want to call out. It is about like appropriately challenging our kids. I will say, we talked about their training environment in here because when we look at development happens in a training environment. Okay, I would liken and make, these guys made, like, this is why I like soccer, because we can all challenge each other on some of these things. I view games as assessments. We learn the game and we go out and we apply it in this assessment in a game-like environment or in a game. Okay, so when we talk about things in that way, it's like, we wouldn't always say that like more homework or more tests equals more learning in the classroom. Okay, it's kind of the same thing with games. So like an ECNL environment, top ECNL environment, they have not as many games because it is going to be a little bit more about periodization. So let's train 3 times a week. Let's not train 6 times a week, because then like the guy's legs are going to be glue, and they're not going to be able to play well. So it's more about trying to really look at performance and saying, how can we set things up as best as possible? Also, then there's a balance in terms of money. When we're paying $1,000, $1,100 for a game here, you think about a couple hours in a dome, paying for that plus referees, that's just for a home game. There's a balance, because if you get up to 40 games doing that, something's not gonna feel good.
I can
Okay.
give you a snapshot of our season. What grade are you in? Eighth grade. So you're headed into high school next year, correct? So the high school student, and we have a bunch of boys back there, I can see right there. You guys are all high school age, correct? Okay, so you go play high school. You are playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 6 days a week throughout mid-August until hopefully the very end of October. So that our players come in end of October, beginning of November, and they're beaten up and they're destroyed from the high school season. So we take it slow in November, and there's generally something that happens. We're talking about hosting an ECNL Regional League showcase in December. Sometimes we've gone to Las Vegas for a showcase, an ECNL showcase in December. But then you have the holiday season, so you're off essentially basically 10 days between Christmas and New Year's. And then we hit the ground running. The very first weekend in January, we generally go to Lakewood Ranch, Florida for an ECNL showcase. And then a couple weeks after that is the MTA showcase. And then we host Indiana teams in early February. Sometimes we participate in the Shattuck showcase, depending on our age and the timing of that. And then we have Minnesota United. We generally play that time of year also. And then we have spring break coming up in March, and our kids all go to different high schools. So the spring break is all over the board. And this year, Easter is on April 20th. So spring breaks for people started in mid-March, and they're going to April 20th now this year. So it's a disaster because people are traveling at different times. And we obviously hosted FC Wisconsin and Chicago Magic this weekend. We had the 2 Indiana clubs in 3 weeks ago. Then we're going to be pounded with games, whether we're home and away, and it's an alternate. We try to do one home weekend, not back-to-back travel weekends, so home, away, through April and May. Then we have Memorial Weekend, where our oldest team travels and plays over Memorial Weekend, because what did they do? Well, they had prom any 3 weekends throughout May. They also have graduation, and they have graduation parties. So the weekend that's available is Memorial Weekend. And then after Memorial Weekend, we play our home derby against St. Croix, because the games in the league have to be completed by the first weekend in June. You see, I'm out of breath just talking, right? So it's having
I'm
that
tired
number.
just listening.
You're so tired of listening to me. Having that number of games is a good fit for keeping people ramping up at important times, letting them come back down and recover, and then ramp back up again at important times and being fit and ready at the right time. We played these games today, and our big discussion at the end of the day was our guys aren't fit enough. So we're going to work really hard over the next 2 weeks before we travel to Rockford and Naperville to play Eclipse. So it's about trying to keep the guys healthy, as fit as possible without overdoing it and burning them out. So it's a good number there. Our regional league teams are gonna participate in both the local leagues and the ECNL Regional League, which will be 10 games, because we just lost a club, so it'll be 10 games, which is a good number. We're adding 10 games to their season, which is a lot for these guys. But we want them to play more. If you're on the regional league team, what's your goal? Move up, make the ECNL team. So you gotta train harder, you gotta play more, you gotta do more than the guys on the team above you to bump them off that team to take that spot. So they get more games.
What we're really trying to change some of the dynamic of, it's like, there's always gonna be, like, we all wanna make the top team. That's what we're here to do, is to keep pushing ourselves. You know, we've talked about like development's not linear. I also wanna start talking about, like, it should be a really big deal to make, we have 36 spots essentially between the top two teams. That should be the goal. It's like, can you make that 36? And then within that, can you, within you know, even within that, in 1 year, can you start pushing to get, oh my gosh, the coaches are talking about bumping me up to this thing, and we're gonna get games up here. And we have some of those ability to do some of those things now when we have ECNL and ECNL regionally. So that's what I'd start to think about, is it's not only just about making the 18, but it's making the entire 36 pool, because you're opening up a lot of opportunities. We'll take a couple more. We'll start to
Yeah.
wrap it up here.
Circle back to travel. I understand that managers pick hotels. Does each family have to stick with that hotel, or can they go on their own? For example.
Danny and I actually pick the hotels. So we go through and we try to book, it's quite a task. If 6 teams are traveling in a weekend, to book 115 hotel rooms. It's rare that you get them all at the same hotel. We try to keep the teams together. There are team recovery sessions, there are team meetings, there are team meals. Is it mandatory? Heck no. If you need to stay at another place, you have family that lives in that area, you have points that you can use at a different hotel. You have to work it out with the coach to make sure you attend team events, but it's not mandatory.
The ones in the
Encouraged,
Midwest
encouraged.
Conference, Mark and I pick. So we've been working with some of the same hotels in Detroit, and Chicago, and Kansas City, and St. Louis, whatever. And then the national showcase events, the coach and the manager pick, but a lot of times, we used to try to get, for the conference ones, we put everybody together. All the teams, usually easier to do, but at the national ones, you'll be in San Diego or Seattle or wherever it happens to be, and it's really hard to get 18 rooms in one hotel, so the manager and coach will work to get the best they can, and honestly, it's one of the hardest things because it's too far from the fields, it's not nice enough, it's too expensive, we had to pay for parking, there was no free breakfast, you know, there's all the
We got a
different,
king bed with a fold-out couch.
there's all the different challenges that you have,
get the
and
fold-out
you
couch.
can't make everyone happy, and only do the best we can to keep the price reasonable, but then it's not in the worst part of town and all that stuff. So the national events are hard. Lakewood Ranch is the hardest one because there's not enough hotels in the Lakewood Ranch area, and both boys and girls have stayed 60 minutes away type of stuff. That one's kind of a pain.
Good team
The
bonding.
one note is that, you know, we do have, like, we like to allow choice when we can. The ECNL has a state of play policy, like, we do have to usually book through whatever partners that they've allowed us to choose from. The other piece so we have to have a certain number of rooms within that. Now, the other piece that we'll say is that, like, we really do encourage people to stay in the same hotel together whenever possible, because it seems like a lot. I have a 2-year-old now, and I'm like, I only have 18 summers with her. I only have 18 summers, right? So that's how I always remind myself, is like, it goes fast. Traveling with your kid is a blast. It's an experience like none other. You get really close with each other when you do some of those things together. Same thing in a team structure. I've coached a lot, and when you get on the road and you travel with a team, that's when you really form bonds. So the teams that travel together and stay together tend to do a little bit better. Would you guys agree with that, or?
Yeah, I've coached 100 teams, and I can't remember if we beat this team 2-1 or lost 2-1, but somebody's got the story of the crazy server at the hotel breakfast restaurant, or the time that you know, something bad happened, but it wasn't that bad, so it wasn't funny at the time, but it's funny 5 years later type of stuff, you know, we've had those experiences, so, you know, if it was all easy, you wouldn't have any good stories type of thing,
I
so.
guarantee you, he remembers the scores of every game. Don't let him tell you that.
Any other
Guarantee it.
questions? Yeah,
The question is about opportunities to view either training sessions or games. I have a player in a different club who's maybe considering trying out for MTA. And it might be nice for him to see.
Reach out to either of us and come and do it.
Okay.
Love to have you there.
yeah. The pre-trial clinic, great opportunity as well, because that is what it will be. But these guys are really open, so reach out.
Okay.
Our emails are online.
Because of local rules, we can't have them trained with us without permission from the director of that club, but coming out and watching is no problem.
Good question. Anyone else?
Really quick one.
Yeah.
How realistic is it for players to stay as multi-sport athletes for their high school team? Is the ECNL player,
We got a lot of multi-sport,
Yeah.
a lot. You know, it's tough and you gotta manage your body, so, you know, that part of it, but then we also like to think that if you're on an ECNL team, that it's, you know, it should be your priority, and we've had kids that have played on basketball teams that have made the state high school basketball tournament, and elite track and field people. Maddie Darlene won the 100, the 200, and the 400 her junior year in high school, and she's the only female athlete in the history of the state of Minnesota track and field, and she ran track. So I think, you know, having those conversations, and people do it.
You
for
also
sure.
have to ask yourself, if your player is going to miss 2 training sessions every week all winter long, what are they missing out on? They're missing out on development, they're missing out, you're paying a lot of money for them to miss a lot. So that's a challenge. So you have to work it out with the coach and be honest at tryouts about what it is, but we have a lot of players who do that. Yeah. We have players who drive from Mankato, Rochester, St. Cloud. We've had a player who drove in from Eau Claire. We had 3 or 4 girls who drove down from, Fargo, North Dakota 1 year to play and train. So it's, flexibility is important, but there's also a point where realistically, are you A, paying too much money and not participating, and B, taking a spot of a kid who would be there every time also. So you have to balance it, but it's something that happens all the time.
Guys, I want to just close by saying thank you so much. It's never lost on me, especially we try to figure out what day is best to do these things, and then we come up with there is no good day because we're playing soccer 7 days a week, pretty much around the clock. So really, really appreciate you guys taking up a Sunday to come out here. It means a lot. And it means, like, obviously everyone here is really invested in the development of their child, and so are we. So what I'll say is that from here, what comes next? We're gonna take the recording here, we'll send it out. We're gonna continue to update our website and send out communication on player identification opportunities, etc. The big call here is that please reach out to us if you have any questions. Obviously, we cover things at a pretty global 30,000-foot view, and every one of you has a story. Every one of you has like a different unique scenario of like your own child's story, your own child's development, where you see like this organization fitting into that story. So please reach out to us and let's have a conversation if it's the right fit, if it's the right time. What does it mean? There's so much here. And I gotta say, like, even as I've been doing this a long time and I'm thinking about my 2-year-old and what I do with it, I'm like, I don't know what's next. What do I do? So like, come have conversations, because this is what we do and we enjoy those conversations. So reach out, we'll talk through it, we'll figure it out. Thank you so much.